Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our YNR chat for Sunday, July 6th, 2014. So this is my first YNR chat that I'm recording the video portion in my living/dining room. It's a little bit different for me. I gotta pick up on the new flow, but it's also incredibly much more comfortable for me. I'm sitting at my desk right now. You can see I got chairs and couch behind me and dining room stuff. If you're listening to the podcast, then this would probably be a good reason to check out the video if you really want to see me in my habitat, my natural habitat. It's very comfortable. I've got my cup of coffee here and I feel a lot more relaxed and ready to settle in and talk about YNR. I, over the years, have become kind of a stickler for making sure that the lighting conditions are very consistent, making sure that the audio quality is as good as I can possibly get it. And so there may be some shift. I don't know. I'm testing it out. And if there are any weird lightings or weird audio things, I mean, shoot, my refrigerator's right there. Hopefully you can't hear it running. But anything like that, I will continue to make adjustments. But I think this is nice. I feel a lot more comfortable, and I hope that everybody will adjust to it eventually. Let's talk about YNR. I was really surprised at how quickly Dylan's condition deteriorated. It became dire within a couple of minutes, it seemed. I mean, on Friday, he was trying to make a pass at Avery, telling her he was kind of hot for her, and then Monday's show picked up and he's going into shock, and like the doctors and of course Stitch, they all rush in and they want to save him, and it actually looks in that moment like he's going to die. And Avery has gone from having this relief that he has made it through the surgery okay, now transitioning into, oh my gosh, he may actually not be okay. This may actually be the end of his life. She runs out into the hall and she bumps into Ian. And Ian says he's there to come visit his son, and he always has this way of acting like he's there for an altruistic reason, and everyone knows that he is a menacing force in this town. And Avery lets him know that everyone knows the truth, that he's not actually Dylan's father, and then she smacks him for letting everybody else believe differently, for lying. And I really enjoyed that. I liked seeing Avery take a little bit of charge. I think it's something that Dylan wanted to do for so long, and here Avery is having the opportunity to do it. And not only that, but she felt tortured by him through all the stalker thing. I think she projected a lot of that onto him, but I think she had that building. I think everybody in town needs to take a number to line up to smack Ian Ward. They should hold a raffle for that or something. Of course, Ian tries to defend himself, and he blames all of this on Nikki, saying, I really thought Dylan could have been my son, and you know, it's Nikki's fault. Nikki's the one that did this. It was her actions that led us here today. And I kind of wasn't expecting that. I expected Ian to take credit immediately for this plan that he's been trying to enact for quite some time now in this havoc that he's wreaked. I expected him to be like, yeah, I got you guys, but he didn't. And I thought, what a great character. There's just something about him that I love. I love his delivery of the lines, the actors. I love that the character is really quite ballsy. He's pretty bold. I mean, going out of his way to blame Nikki. Of course, Nikki shows up to jump on him too, and it's Avery and Nikki tag teaming him, and then Victor shows up to support Nikki. Her son is, you know, in dire condition. Victor's there, and Ian continues to talk smack about Nikki, saying it's not me, it's her, and Victor is not even having that. Victor chases him away. Victor essentially takes one step toward Ian, and Ian literally turns around and runs away. back and watch that scene if you haven't seen it, because it really was just like he was a little boy getting chased off by, you know, a bigger boy who he was afraid of. It was just a great moment. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much, but I really did. On a side note, it is weird to me how supportive Victor is being of Dylan and Nikki and all of this. I think Victor has got something up his sleeve, but I don't know exactly what. Anyway, everyone is worried about Dylan, of course. Avery is losing her mind with worry, as is Nikki, but Avery is really spending time by Dylan's bedside, and she feels him slipping away, and she's very afraid, and she's crying over him and asking him to come back. And I don't know why I zeroed in on this, but I thought, oh my gosh, she just looks amazing right now. Her hair is in a good place. She has short, straight hair and these diamond stud earrings with, you know, kind of contrasted with this cute little plaid shirt, and tears in her eyes. And I just kept thinking, well, she looks beautiful. I mean, you know Dylan's not gonna die. It's hard to rev up any real concern for characters in the hospital when you know that the actor's not leaving the show. So there's somewhat of a disconnect where I wasn't fully in, like, allowing myself to believe Dylan could die, because I knew he wouldn't, so I'm looking at the fashion. It's my way of distracting myself. The problem is Dylan is so far gone, and nobody really knows if, you know, he's kind of writhing around, and his vitals are up and down and all over the place, and no one really knows what that means. Stitch is trying to consult, but he says something like, oh, you know, I'm in training, or I'm in residence. Well, why isn't there a real doctor in there then? But Stitch, I'll give him some credit. He was there for his friend, wanting to help his friend and wanting to be there for Avery. But Dylan begins to have, I don't know if I should call it a hallucination or a dream or a slip into the other world. I don't know. But he begins to see Sully. Sully's there in his hospital room in full uniform, and Dylan's able to have this moment with this friend who he's lost, who's always on his mind, who will always be on his mind. And it actually looked like we've seen that flashback scene so many times of the battlefield, and where Dylan tried to save Sully's life and couldn't, and now here Sully's standing there in full regalia. It looked like they got the same actor, because they did do a flashback of that scene again. I'm sure that actor did not expect to be called in again after getting shot in a flashback sequence, but Sully is there visiting Dylan in his hospital room for all intents and purposes, and they begin to talk about Avery, and it was a nice little back and forth. Sully kind of pretended he couldn't remember Avery's name, but knowing full well that she was what Dylan fought for months and months, and how he carried that picture of her everywhere. And as the reminiscing ends, Sully extends his hand out to Dylan and says, you know, why don't you come with me? He wants him to follow him over onto the other side. And I think in that moment it made me realize that Dylan's character is someone who feels like he's always living on borrowed time. I believe Dylan thought he should have died with his platoon. That's something that he's said many times. He felt that he should have died instead of Sully or with Sully, and he's carried a lot of guilt about this throughout his life. But the fact is, Dylan did survive. He has a business and a lot of people who love him in Genoa City, and you know, we all know he's going to fight. I mean, why die right as you're discovering that you have a new father? I think, isn't third dad a charm? Nikki has just told Paul that his son isn't dead, and Paul's calling out for his son, thinking about how he killed Ricky, and Nikki is now at Paul's bedside telling him, your son is alive, and it's Dylan. and Paul is, he's writhing around, he's thrashing, and Chris rushes in to try to help him. I think she's been out calling the doctor, and Paul starts calling out for Dylan, and Chris realizes that Nikki just told him. Nikki just did the one thing that Chris asked her not to do. They had just had a conversation in the hall about, we need to keep Paul calm. We cannot be revealing huge things to him when he is trying to have a recovery. And Nikki turns around and goes right in and tells him. I'm sure in Nikki's defense she thought that she was helping Paul, helping to calm him down by giving him the knowledge that he has this new gift of a new son. But if I were Chris, I would have wanted to smack Nikki. There should have been a couple of smacks happening in that hospital waiting room. Not just Ian. Maybe Nikki needed a slap too. And they did. They actually, Chris and Nikki went out into the waiting room and had an argument, and Chris said something like, Paul is my husband. And Nikki said, well, Paul is my friend. So we have a fundamental problem with, these two women have a fundamental problem with one another. And I like it. I like that it's not just cattiness. It's a deep, deep problem between them that isn't going to be resolved just with some quick thing. I mean, I think this is now going to be a lifetime problem, or until somebody wins. I do enjoy it. They're arguing out in the hall, and Paul can hear them. I think either he can hear him or he knows something's wrong, and you can just hear Paul's voice coming from in the room, and he's like, what's going on? What's going on out there? I don't know why that tickled me and made me laugh, but it certainly did. And Nikki and Paul rush back into the room, and Nikki goes right for Paul's side. She is right there for him, and Chris is kind of in the background. Through a lot of this, it has felt like Nikki has been at the bedside and Chris has been forced into the background, just loving her husband, wanting him to live, trying to look out for his actual health, and just, I think, desperately wanting to go on with their life as planned. Chris and Paul did manage to have a peaceful moment after that, and it was nice, and I do like them together. Chris and Paul certainly do make sense to me, but I also just felt like maybe it's best to not overwhelm Paul at this point. Maybe it is best I agreed with Chris to just sort of let him heal, let him recover, and not reveal all of this information to him. So I really did disagree with what Nikki did. I don't really question her motives because I think Nikki's coming from a good place, but I don't think it was the correct decision. Paul is actually lying in his hospital room. I don't know why I keep wanting to say hotel room, and if I have said it, I apologize, and if I say it in the future, I apologize in advance. But Paul is lying in his hospital room parallel with Dylan in his, and Paul is starting to recover and get better, and Dylan is starting to get worse, and Paul is very unaware of this on a conscious level, but it seems that on an unconscious or subconscious level, Paul knows that something is wrong with Dylan. They did tell him last week that I believe, I don't know if it was last week or this week, I apologize, but they told him that Dylan was the donor, and he, I think, can sense through through Nikki being in the room and other people being in the room, Paul can sense that something's wrong, that maybe Dylan isn't recovering the way he should, and he is with Nikki and begins to insist on knowing the truth. How is Dylan? What is his condition? I feel like you're keeping something from me, and I can feel like something is wrong, so tell me. And of course, Nikki is there to tell him. She doesn't leave anything out. She needs to tell him absolutely everything. And I want to be mad at Nikki, but there is a part of me that is noticing Nikki seems to handle Paul well. I think she does a really good job of calming him down, or he listens to her. Maybe it's just she's telling him, she's not coddling him. Maybe that's part of it, but I do think that they have a good connection, and it is hard to stay mad at her. I mean, I like the idea of them sharing a son. Somehow it works for me. Dylan makes sense as someone who could be Nikki and Paul's son. Dylan looks like he could be Paul's son. The sort of Paul has this honor inside of him, but also just a tweak of darkness too that Dylan has, and so it just makes sense to me. I kind of am digging it. I'm surprised, but it makes sense, and I'm accepting Dylan as Paul and Nikki's son. I like the idea of I like how they talked. I mean, when Nikki told him of Dylan's condition, she also mentioned. Just, I'm sorry, I should have known. Yeah, you should have known, Nikki. You should have put 2 and 2 together on that before. But they start to talk and about the what ifs. What would have happened if he would have known that Dylan was his son? Would they have kept the child? Would they have stayed together? Paul says, would I have made the same mistakes that I did with April or his other kids? And I think that's a very valid concern. Later, after Nikki leaves, this is probably the single greatest moment of the week. Paul totally astral projects over to Dylan's room. And we see this from Dylan's perspective. He looks up after having had his hallucination or whatever you want to call it with Sully, and he sees Paul there. I mean, I think Y&R maybe the only thing that could have made it better was if Paul was translucent or transparent, like that you could see through him, and if Paul really kind of looked like a ghost just standing like, ooh, son. I really loved it, because Paul, we've seen him in this hospital bed for weeks, and now he's actually there in his suit jacket and his glasses, and he's looking really good, and Paul's spirit, I assume for all intents and purposes, is having a conversation with Dylan's spirit. It's like the bodies are indisposed, but the spirits have this moment where they're connecting with one another, and Paul just says everything that he wanted to say to his son, that he was, sorry that he wasn't there for him, but wants to get to know him. And I think for Dylan's perspective, he was able in that moment to hear everything that he needed to hear and to give him enough reason to keep fighting. And as soon as it's over, Dylan just miraculously, I never would have predicted it, but Dylan opens his eyes. He does not die. And he comes back to Avery, who is with him, to his friends, Stitch, to his family. And at the same time, Paul is he's coming into consciousness, where he finds Nikki crying by his bedside, and she's worried about him because it's still looking dire for Dylan, and Paul just looks up at her and tells her unequivocally in a perfectly clear voice. We haven't heard his clear voice since he came out of the coma, but with absolute conviction tells Nikki, Dylan is going to be all right. Our son is going to be all right. Like, don't worry, I got this. You may not know it, but I've been practicing astral projection for years now. Ian is down, but he is not out. I don't know why I love this character so much, but I do. And as we all know, Blackmail is Ian's favorite card to play. He runs into Leslie, and he tells Leslie that he wants her to file an emotional distress lawsuit against Nikki for him. And if she does that, then Leslie will be safe. He won't report her to the board of whatever for violating his client confidence. Again, I said it before, I love that Ian has these cojones. He just has no compunction about anything. I like that and I think part of being a cult leader is probably that you're sticking to your story. You have to believe your lie, and Ian believes his lie, that his motives are pure and that he is being wronged somehow. And Leslie is like, what are you talking about? What? He says, Nikki it's ridiculous, but she knew that Dylan wasn't my son, and she led me to believe that he was, and so I want to file emotional distress. And even though that Leslie could have done it and not had this, you know, the potential of losing her license, she tells him that she's not going to do it, and then she goes to Nikki and Victor and tells them everything about what Ian has done and what he's planning to do, and if he's not going to file the suit with me, he may file it with someone else. But everyone is upset. I mean, everyone is again threatening. It's like, you know, Victor obviously wants Ian out of everyone's life. So does Nick. So does Nikki. And so does Leslie. It feels like the threats are ramping up again, and I wonder if the Ian Ward, who killed Ian Ward murder mystery could still be in the works. Victor is catching Victoria up on all of the happenings with Dylan. He's Paul's son. Hey, who knew? So he's letting Victoria know the news about Dylan's paternity, and he's also taking this opportunity to grill her about her feelings about her baby being Billy's versus being Stitch's, and it's painfully clear that Victor would prefer it to be Stitch's. And I think if Victor could pay $1 billion to make it so, he would. In fact, I would not put it past Victor to go in and rig the paternity test results to make it so. Let's just keep that in mind. When the paternity tests ultimately show up, let's just keep it in mind that Victor would have a very vested interest, motive, and it would be his whole MO, his whole vibe to do that. Plus, it seems like exactly the type of storyline that YNR likes to do these days. They love a paternity twist. So if that baby comes back as Stitch's, I'm gonna question whether or not Victor switched those paternity test results. Now, we still have to find out Stitch's secret. Chelsea and Billy are enlisting Kevin to do a background search on Stitch. Kevin protested before, and now he's finally giving in a little bit, which is good. They're at the coffee house, Chelsea, Billy, and Kevin, and Billy ends up leaving, and Victoria comes in just as Chelsea and Kevin are talking, and she kind of breaks up the party and jumps on Chelsea, obviously very paranoid that Chelsea's making a move on Billy. And I'm having a hard time understanding you here, Victoria. I know you're pregnant and hormonal and you've gone through a lot, and she probably hasn't fully processed her feelings for Delia's loss, and I know there's a lot going on in your life, Victoria. I want to cut you some slack, but let me just tell you what it looks like from the outside is, oh, you don't want Billy, but you don't want Chelsea to have him either, okay? Let's just throw that out there as how it looks from the outside, okay, girl? I'm your friend. I'm trying to tell you. It occurred to me, this is just so off random or whatever, but it occurred to me this week that of the whole Billy, Victoria, Stitch thing, it's like Victoria's the only one that is a legacy character, and Kelly, throw them in there. They're all recasts and newbies. I don't know why that even came to my head right now, but I don't know. Victoria, I'm questioning her. I don't know why, if she wants to be with Billy, then she doesn't just get with Billy, and if she wants to let him go, then it's time to let him go. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And also, I don't know when Chelsea creeped up on me, but she did, I think. I mean, now all of a sudden I'm defending Chelsea, and I'm really feeling it. Who am I? I really enjoyed Kevin this week. I will say that. He was hitting me in the right spot. We're getting back to Kevin being in the hacking game, and I like that. And then Kevin did also confront Chelsea about her motivations for helping Billy. He said, why is it that you're really wanting to help him, and could it be more? Could it be that you actually do have feelings for him? And I think Chelsea is maybe starting to realize that maybe that is part of the reason that she's wanting to help him. I mean, they both separately have kissed each other and then not acknowledged it. I don't know if that's almost like a grade school kind of crush thing, but I don't know. I think that there could be more, and at separate points maybe they're starting to realize that they do have feelings for one another. I also enjoyed the pre-birthday dinner between Jill and her new son. I mean, this casting, I mean, did Jill have him when she was 10, 15? I mean, they shouldn't look that much older than him. Lord, knowing Jill, she could be dating him. They could easily have cast him as a romantic interest for Jill, not her son. It was good though. There was some good banter. I still enjoyed the dialogue. I wish that the connection between Billy and Chelsea that had been developing in the past was still there for me. I wish that it would spark for me like it used to. I really think that the main reason I didn't like Chelsea, or let's be real, the reason I disliked Chelsea for so long was because I didn't feel like she was the right match for my Adam. As everyone knows, I was a big Adam and Sharon fan, and I have to be real with myself too. I think that I resented Adam for moving on with Chelsea, and I took it out on Chelsea. I'm having a therapy moment here. But putting Chelsea with someone else makes me feel completely differently about her. I'm sure that it would be hard for a new actress to stick out opposite someone like Michael Mooney. I mean, he's such a big personality, and she just didn't do it for me. It never made sense that she was supposed to be this sharp con artist when all she was a pussycat with Adam, and it just didn't make me endeared to her. But now she's actually getting a chance to shine, and she's getting a chance to be herself, and I'm actually liking it. I do feel differently about her. I want to feel her and Billy. Billy comes over to hang out with Chelsea. There's this sexuality in the air, or this I guess I shouldn't say sexuality. It's more like a romantic what if in the air. Maybe at this point more for Chelsea than for Billy, because I think he's preoccupied. But Chelsea has been noticing a buzzing sound in the baby room. Can't figure out where it's coming from, but we all know that it's from Adam's creepy spy cam. She asks Billy to, come in and help her figure out where this buzzing is coming from. It looks like from the previews for Monday's show that they're close to discovering it. I don't know how long it's going to take them to put it together. If they find the camera, who it could be, considering they never found Adam's body, who else would have an interest in camming her baby's room? Oh, how creepy! Someone putting a camera in your baby's room? That means Adam also let some guy into the house. And when we saw that scene, of course, but it doesn't seem Adam-like to me. I don't know. And plus, like, how long is Adam planning to just be a voyeur? Like, what is he waiting for? Is he gonna make a move, or just watch them for eternity? I mean, what is Y&R waiting for besides a recast? It seemed like a couple weeks ago there was an implication of, and I do like the idea of him kidnapping her and revealing the truth that he's alive that way. Is that going to happen anytime soon? Does Y&R even have a long-term plan here? Jack confronts Kelly. He saw that tender moment between she and Stitch, and he wants to know what the answer was. They managed to skirt around it all last week, and then finally this week he confronts her about it and says, I saw you say that you loved Stitch. Why is that? And she reveals ever so slowly. She admits that she's the one that broke up Stitch's marriage, and in the middle of her trying to tell her story, Billy shows up, and then Kelly blows up. How could you go to Australia and disturb Jenna? This poor woman's been through enough. And then Billy reveals kind of accidentally that he has tried to call Kelly's ex-husband, and that really sets her off. How could you call my ex-husband? I thought we were friends. I told you what I told you about our lives because I trusted you, and you've betrayed me. And she storms out and leaves, and later Jack goes to talk to Kelly in her office, and she reveals out of the blue, kinda, that Stitch is her brother, that they're brother and sister. Okay, first of all, I don't remember which days this was, maybe like Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know if I didn't watch closely enough, but it seemed like at the end of Wednesday's show, Kelly was saying, okay, I'm ready to tell you the truth about the connection between me and Stitch. And then Thursday's show started up with Jack going, Stitch is your brother? So I didn't see Kelly actually tell him. It was like they picked up on Thursday, or whatever day it was, with Jack just learning the truth. And did anybody else get thrown off by that? Because I don't watch live. I watch online, and I always have that moment of, did I miss an episode? What? But I don't know. Now, secondly, I feel like maybe we theorized months and months ago about Kelly and Stitch being brother and sister, but then Y&R threw me off. They started talking more about his marriage and relationship and the I love you thing, and it was a red herring. And it tricked me too, because I had fully started believing that Kelly and Stitch were romantically involved, so they tricked me. They definitely tricked me on that one. And finally, oh, the big reveal, we know the truth, they're brother and sister. So that's at least good. Good to know. Kelly reveals that they were estranged for a long time over whatever it is that he did that we still don't know about. And then after Kelly's son died, she said that Stitch tried to reach out to her, and rather than being and feeling thankful, Kelly was jealous that here Stitch was with this really nice, happy family, and so she went to his wife and told her everything. Of course, she doesn't reveal exactly what that is, so we still don't know what exactly that is, and I don't know if it's going to be another couple months till we find out exactly what that is. I just want to know. So Kelly tells Jack this truth, and she's so vulnerable during the whole reveal that Jack forgives her, of course, immediately, and they hug and embrace, and you know, he had gone to her under the presumption that he was probably going to have to end the relationship, and then he leaves hugging. He is such a sucker. All you have to do is show Jack a little bit of vulnerability, and he's like, oh, you're right, I'm vulnerable too, let's be together. He's such a romantic. He gets a hopeless romantic. Afterwards, though, Jack does go down and sits with Billy, who's there having dinner, and Jack tells Billy about Kelly and Stitch's real connection, and so there's one piece of the puzzle remaining. And thank goodness for Chelsea and Kevin, because Kevin is able to pull the records for Ben Rayburn, and guess what? Ben Rayburn is dead. That was good. I thought that was a pretty good little twist. We don't know the details, the background. All we know is that it's obvious that Stitch has assumed an identity of this person. He's not who he says he is. And only Chelsea and Kevin are the ones who know the truth right now. Chelsea has not told Billy yet. In fact, Billy has told both Kevin and Chelsea that he doesn't want to know. pursuing this whole Stitch's background thing has backfired on him and has only made Victoria more angry with him. So Billy's decided he doesn't want to know any more about any of it. Billy does end up going to the hospital he goes to the house, I think, and tells Victoria about the sibling connection. Tells Victoria that Kelly and Stitch are actually brother-sister. So it's Victoria who goes to the hospital, finds Stitch and Kelly there, and confronts them about why didn't they say that? Why did it have to be that big of a secret? Now that I'm thinking about it, why couldn't you just say that you're brother and sister? In fact, the conversation that Kelly and Stitch were having when Victoria showed up was that Kelly was saying, look, Jack knows that we're brother-sister. Everybody kind of knows that we're brother-sister now, so that's out in the open. But if anybody's going to find out about what it is that you did, it's going to come from you. It's not going to come from me or anybody else. So why not just say you were brother and sister in the first place? It makes no sense to me now that I think about it. But Victoria, I think, feels exactly the same way. Well, why didn't you just tell me this? If you're keeping something like this a secret, what else are you keeping a secret? And it's clear that Victoria is beginning to wonder if she ever really knew Ben at all. Yeah, I'd say that is correct, Victoria. Personally, I am hoping that Chelsea decides that, you know what, if Billy can't know the truth, and if Billy doesn't want to be the one to tell Victoria the information that she needs to know about this man that she's becoming involved with, who might be the father of her child, then Chelsea will. A collection agent comes by the Chancellor Mansion to let Colin know that he better pay his debt or someone could get hurt. I kind of like that actor, by the way, the guy who played the thug. He had this really deep, gravelly voice. I thought, ooh, I could see him being on the police force or something. He seemed like, I don't know, for some reason he caught my attention. So Colin's just tries to talk his way out of it. The bully leaves, and when Jill gets home, Colin finally confesses at the 11th hour, at the very last moment where he couldn't hide the truth anymore. He confesses to Jill that he borrowed this money from these mob guys for Bonaventure, something having to do with Bonaventure. I guess, is he an investor? I don't know. The whole Bonaventure thing got a little bit lost on me. I'm sorry. So I'm just reporting. It had something to do with Colin borrowing money for Bonaventure. But he tells Jill the truth finally, and Jill accepts him with open arms immediately. Just, oh, Colin, thank you for telling me the truth. How hard was that? How hard was it to just tell the truth, Colin? It could have saved you a lot of trouble, including a diamond heist and a botched burglary that put your wife's life in danger. Then there's this beautiful moment between Jill and Colin where, just like an angel, Jill steps back and she selflessly peels that big, beautiful diamond heirloom necklace off of her neck and tenderly, gingerly places it right into Colin's grimy, dirty little hands. And she gives it to him, says, take it. Take the necklace. She just hands over this piece of her life, of her soul, of her heart, of her financial security to Colin without even a second thought. Just with angel eyes gives him the necklace. And I was so taken back by that. I was like, ugh. That's all he ever had to do. All he ever had to do was tell her the truth and ask. And I just thought, ugh. Jill is a saint. Now, after some intense thought and probably a night of tossing and turning, Jill comes down to the living room the next morning where Colin is obviously deep in thought. I mean, he had to have felt like the biggest dirtbag in the world when she finally handed him over this thing that he knows meant everything to her. And he looked like the biggest dirtbag in the world too, so it was appropriate. So the next morning he's standing there kind of brooding, and he tells Jill, I can't I can't take this necklace from you. It's your inheritance. It's something that came from Catherine, and I understand all that it means to you. And Jill just looks at him as if she just heard exactly what she needed to hear. And that's when she walks over to the safe. She pulls out a jewelry box from the safe, and she reveals that she has had an exact replica of Catherine's necklace made by a jeweler. And she tricked him. She never gave him the real necklace. He never had it for even a moment. It was a test, a beautiful test of their relationship, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And then, not only that, but Jill comes up with this idea that what she wants to do is give away the fake necklace to the guys that Colin's in debt to, keep the real necklace, and then collect the insurance money by saying that it was stolen. Well, I liked the first two parts of that. It is actually a genius way to be able to pay off Colin's debt and still keep the necklace, but do you really have to commit insurance fraud to boot? When did Jill become that greedy, right? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Also, what kind of jeweler can't tell the difference between a real diamond and a fake diamond? Especially as they get larger, I would think that you could tell if it was real or fake. I worked for a jeweler for a couple of years. Like, you can kind of tell a fake diamond. It's even if the best fake diamond is still an obviously fake diamond. They can do tests, so I don't know what she thinks she's doing. Apparently no one in Genoa City can tell the difference, including Colin and Jill, as they're showing both of the necklaces side by side in all of their beauty. They kind of get switched around a little bit, and Jill says, you know, she is sure she knows which one is the real and which one is the fake, even though they're identical and no one, even a jeweler, would be able to tell the difference. Jill knows because she has a spiritual connection with the necklace. Only Jill would have a spiritual connection with diamonds. Oh man. She just says she just knows, and I just know. I have a spiritual connection with Y&R. I just know that we're gonna see a scene in the near future that with maybe some comedic music in the background where Jill realizes that she kept the wrong necklace. Ba-ding-bing-a-ding-doo. After Nick told Mariah about Ian's inappropriate behavior with young women, she confronts him at the athletic club, and he seems very offended. He goes on about how he's been like a father to her, and he just has this way of delivering, of just seeming so nice, like such a nice, caring old man, going on about how he's known Mariah since she was a child. He's watched her grow up, and how could she even question his motives? And I find myself just getting drawn in. I mean, Mariah kind of got, yeah, you're probably right. And I think maybe next week she starts to turn against him, but in this particular scene, she's like, okay, all right, I kind of get it. And I'm like, is it weird that I kind of want to believe him too? Like, I want to believe him, and I don't know why. I think I'm being drawn into the cult. Gosh, I hope I don't have to sign anything. I'll have to sign away my everything. Now, Nick and Sharon are becoming a family again in every way, and Nick, sort of off the cuff, brings up the idea of marriage, and Sharon has a very unexpected reaction. Sharon is very scared of the idea. She doesn't like it. I think Sharon is happy with where she is in her life, and I think she's scared that it's going to slip away any moment. Sharon has had a long road of recovery, and I think she just doesn't quite trust herself yet. I think that Nick actually trusts her more than she trusts herself, but at the same time, Nick, he understands her. And that's more important, especially in this moment. So even though I think Nick was a little bit hurt by the fact that she was immediately like, I don't ever want to get married again, or I don't think we should get married again, I think he was a little bit thrown off, a little bit hurt, but he took it, he just understood it and accepted it, and he actually, what was it, I think he got down on one knee, and he even said he like gives her this non-marriage proposal and says, Sharon Newman, or Sharon, will you please not marry me? And instead of saying I do, Sharon said I won't. It was really, really cool and cute, and I like where Nick and Sharon are right now. I think there is no need to rush for anything more. They are at just exactly the right level for me. It's the exact right level of where I want them to be. I think we should keep this fun and this quirkiness before Phyllis gets back and we're gonna have to blow their entire world apart again. Austin is out on bail. On Summer's dime. Let's not dash over that. Summer was able to get her hands on her inheritance money and paid to get him out of jail, and they just let him out on bail because, you know, they say he's not a flight risk because he turned himself in. Oh, really? That's all it takes? So now Summer has this, she's set her sights on the fact that they need to work with Leslie to get Austin out of these charges. She decides she wants to testify on his behalf, but she's worried that the prosecution is going to call her to testify against him. You saw that coming like a mile away, right? Or at least a week away. Leslie and Austin convince her, you know, not to testify for Austin. They've got bigger problems. Summer finally tells Austin this week that she's in love with him, and he seems to care about her too. I don't want to take that away or make it seem like Austin's a monster or an opportunist, because I don't get that a vibe from him. In fact, I think that he seems to care about her enough to try to push her away on more than one occasion. I think he knows, like, he's a bad boy. I'm bad news, baby. Which only makes a girl want you more. There's a tip for the guys out there. Of course, I don't know. I think girls like the bad boys, and Summer apparently does too. Except for her mom. Her mom seems to like the good guys. But, goodness. You know, I realized pretty early in the week that Summer was looking suspiciously angelic in her white sundress. Was anybody else picking up on the white sundress like really early? Summer claims that she has an idea that's gonna fix everything. It's gonna fix everything. And she and Austin run off screen and they show back up at the Abbott cabin, and they're both all pleased with themselves for whatever it was that they've just done. And that's when Jack gets alerted by the caretaker of the cabin that someone has showed up and, gives him a heads up. And so Jack heads up to the cabin, finds his daughter there with the criminal, and Jack tries to throw this guy out, just proclaiming, I'm her father. And Austin just grabs Summer's hand, shows it to Jack, and says, and I'm her husband. It was like the not so shocking shocker of the week. I suppose I was supposed to be shocked, but I wasn't. It was pretty obvious, but Summer, it's just the last in a long line of bad decisions, and everyone knows it. You can love Austin, it's not enough to help him, and now you gotta marry him too. I just can't imagine what this girl was thinking. Jack, of course, figures out that it's because that way she can't be forced to testify against him in a trial. And, you know, gosh, to Austin's credit, Jack tries to blame everything on Austin. You're just using her to, it's your idea. You came up with this marriage thing, and you're just trying to get your hands on her money to boot. But in Austin's defense, this really has all been Summer's plan from, all the way down the line, from even before he got arrested. She was all about how this was such a great idea to get married. It was something that her mom would have done. And I don't know about that. I don't know if that's something Phyllis would have done, and frankly, knowing that Phyllis is going to be recast, I feel sorry for the woman coming out of a coma only to discover that her fiancé has moved on and her daughter is married to a felon. Sharon and Jack throw Neil an adorable little reception at work. It's the thought that counts. I mean, a work reception is probably not the most romantic thing I could think of, but for what they had to work with, it was really cute. They had the champagne and the cake all ready to go. Or not the champagne, sorry, Neil's a recovering alcoholic. The sparkling cider. Is Hillary even old enough to drink sparkling cider? How old is she? I'm not sure. I guess she's around Lily's age, so she's certainly 21, right? Yeah. I'm just teasing. Devon is definitely 21. He's definitely old enough to drink. Devon is distraught and drunk, which is a really bad combination of D's. 3 D's. Devon, distraught, and drunk. Devon calls Kane and tries to talk to him about something work-related, but Kane knows the score. He's probably the only one that knows how in love with Hillary Devon is, and I kind of like the friendship that's developed between Devon and Kane. It's unexpected. Kane gives Devon good advice, tells him to cool it, but instead of taking the good advice, Devon goes drunkenly bumbling over to the work reception. I don't think he knew what was going on, but he goes there, or yeah, he did, because he was having a meeting with Hillary, and Hillary found out about it. So, a meeting. Devon goes over to the work reception, and of course, we get the idea as the viewers that he's there to crash the party, and then he doesn't. He hands over a thoughtful gift to Neil and Hillary as the new couple, and it was pretty sad. It really, I have started to feel more connected to Devon lately. I understand what he's going through, and I felt bad for him. I also felt bad for Leslie. Leslie stopped by to Jack's office to give him something and ended up walking in on this reception, and she's trying to be okay with it, but I don't think she's okay with it. I wonder if Leslie and Neil are on a path back to one another. I don't know. I'm not sure. But Leslie kind of distracts Neil to have a conversation. And just as Devon is going to leave, Hillary follows him into the elevator, and he begins to profess his love for her. He is a broken man, and it's kind of becoming like a broken record. I enjoyed it. I'm of two minds, because I am definitely connecting with Devon. I kind of like him even more when he's drunk. He was a little bit charming, but at the same time, I think he needs to find a way to move on. He needs to find a way to let it go. He starts going on yet again with Hillary about how he feels about her, and she obviously feels it too, but she's a married woman now. I mean, it's been hours. You've been married for hours, and you're already kind of questioning, and you already have a clear sexual chemistry with your husband's son? They have an almost kiss. I mean, and it looked kind of like hot, and then the elevator doors open up, and you know damn well who's standing there. Neil. And you always think Neil's gonna catch him, and he's gonna see something, and then he doesn't. It's just making Neil look like a damn fool. You know, Devon and Hillary, let me tell you, at this point, you've signed on the dotted line. You're married. Hillary, you're married to Neil. You've made your choice. Devon, it's too late. You know, at this point, it's not about you. It is not about you. The fact is, Devon, you waited too long. You snoozed, you losed. You need to just let your father be happy. You need to step out of it. And Hillary, you made your choice. You cannot go back. You need to stay away from Devon and try to move on with your life. And I think she's trying to. In fact, she has this idea a little bit later in the week and tells Neil that she thinks it might be a good idea to start a family right now. They've been married for a day and she's ready to start a family, or she thinks she is. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that it might not be a good idea to bring a child into this situation right now. You were almost just kissing another man. Even Neil was like, whoa, hold up a minute. Maybe that's not such a good idea. Maybe we should wait on the whole having a child thing. Ugh. Well, I don't know. I think the best part is that I was very happy to see our new rooftop bar in Genoa City. That's got to be seasonal. There's no way they're going to be able to keep that rooftop bar going through the harsh Wisconsin winter. But what'd you guys think of the new set? I liked it. I think they called it, there was an etching on the door. I want to say it said Sky Bar. Maybe I'm going to call it Sky Bar until they call it something else. Maybe I missed what exactly we're calling it. But it's a new restaurant slash bar, I assume restaurant, on the rooftop of the athletic club. It's something that Devon has brought to the table with that Chancellor money. And it's very silver and gray and mint and white and fresh feeling. Lounge chairs and drinks and fresh yellow flowers. I love it. I think it's a good use of Catherine's money. It brings that breath of fresh air into the show, gives us some, an outdoor place. Thank you. Thank you. Were we just talking about that? I enjoyed it. Now, Devon is there. He spends all his time at the athletic club. I think he lives there now. He's the one who introduced us to the new rooftop bar. And he's, after this whole conversation, horrible, another almost kiss with Hillary, poor me, woe is me, my life, Devon goes up to the bar and he's really just lamenting his world. Things were fine with him before he had this money, before things got complicated. And Abby showed up and actually tried to offer him some wisdom. Unfortunately, it kind of washed over me. I'm sorry, it's just, I just hear this, like when I look at Abby, I just hear like the sounds of waves crashing. I don't hear her voice, I just hear waves. But she tries to give him a pep talk. I caught that much. And Devon, I don't think it worked very well. Devon really dramatically steps out onto the ledge of this rooftop bar and grabs a wad of money out of his pocket and starts tossing it down on the street. Oh, I love that. That was a good scene. I love that concept, that money has made him more miserable. More miserable. Everybody thinks that money's the solution to your problems, that it can bring you to a level of happiness, and Devon is realizing it has brought him nothing but trouble, so he tosses it down onto the street, onto the peasants. I loved that. But I also question why they would build a rooftop bar and have it unsecured like that. Like anybody could just walk up onto that ledge at any point. That's not how things work anymore. I mean, if it was 1980 maybe, but I'm pretty sure any kind of public rooftop bar would have like railings, like high railings or something, like to prevent people from jumping or falling off, or like, high railings or like higher ledges or sneeze guards or something. I am really just thrilled to know how much people have been enjoying hearing me read comments. I wish I would have thought about it before. I guess there was a part of me that thought, well, if you guys want to read comments, you can just go to the comments. It never really occurred to me to read them, but I've got my list of comments here that I received during the past week, and this is by no means all of the comments, but just I plucked out a couple of ones that I thought were kind of related to what was going on, what I was talking about this week. Connor left me a message actually last week, a voice message, and said, regarding Stitch and Kelly and all that. He says, I don't know where the storyline is going, and I'm losing interest very fast. I'm getting real sick of them saying to Stitch, you know what you did. Well, what the hell did he do? I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one that feels that way, Connor, and I thought that was very well put. Every single time they're running around talking about what you did, or Kelly talking about what you did. Well, what is it? Let us know. Let us in on the freaking clue here. Gary also called in and left me a voice message. Well, actually, one of the voice messages Gary left said, I think, Gary, you called this whole segment, the comment segment, Allie's mailbox. I kind of like that. Allie's mailbag. Maybe that is what I should name it from now on. That's pretty good. Gary says about Burgess Jenkins, the new Billy. He looks like a very well-preserved 50. WTF. It's true. I said it earlier. He looks. They wanted older. They got older. They definitely got an older actor. Gary had also mentioned about the 4th of July show. We're used to seeing some kind of party. Usually the 4th of July show is a little bit, I don't want to say throwaway, but there's not a lot of action. Usually holiday shows just sort of show the family getting together, and Gary says this year there was no Abbott swimming pool and no Catherine Chancellor barbecue. That's very true. It is something I was expecting. In fact, I was home on Friday during the day, and I never really watched the show live, but I turned on the TV just to see, make sure there was an episode, and to see, if we were going to be poolside somewhere. I mean, we did get the new rooftop place, and that was nice and fresh, but it cannot compete with the Catherine Chancellor barbecue. Gary also suggests that maybe we should all go meet at Chancellor Park after dark. All of our YNR chat friends, let's go. Pack your bag right now, wherever you are watching this. Let's pack a picnic. I'll bring the sandwiches, and we'll all go to Chancellor Park, and we'll just hang out. That'll be our 4th of July. Somebody bring a grill. That really made me laugh, and I'll say, Gary, that gave me a good laugh at the exact moment where I needed one, so thank you for that. Let's see, what else do we got here? Let's talk about Henry. Left me a message at yrchat.com and says, I hope Devon chills out on the booze and just accepts the fact that Neil and Hillary are married. Neil is not your biological dad, Devon, so Hillary is not your stepmother, nor is she Lily's. Lily's dad is Malcolm, Neil's brother, just to summarize here. Also, Devon, at one point you had romantic feelings for Lily as well. Dude, you're just slow. Channel that energy toward another lady or something else, and again, drop the booze before you're headed to a 12-step program. We've had enough storylines regarding that. Amen, Henry. Devon has been hitting the booze more since he got the money. That's something I never noticed until he got the inheritance. So he has been drinking more and has been pining more, and I really agree. Although I do empathize with him at the point where Neil and Hillary got married, it stopped being cute. You got to move on. I mean, you cannot do this to your father. And also, I love, Henry, that you mentioned that about Devon's crush on Lily, because I remember that, and I don't think it really hasn't been mentioned very much in the past. It sort of came up and then went away. Anna left me a voicemail and said, I like Hillary and Neil. I'm glad, Anna. You always seem to like the people I don't like, but I love that about you because it brings me around. I don't want to get too stuck in not liking something. I want to be a little more diverse. You guys let me be a little more diverse. And Anna says, regarding the age difference between Hillary and Neil, she says, I'm happily married to someone 15 years older than me. So, and I don't really have a problem with, younger women, older men. I really don't. So I don't know why that hit me. I don't know if it's the age difference or if it's something else. I don't know. I guess at this point it's that I don't know that, that Hillary and Neil are really, really, truly in love. I mean, if she's so easily swayed away by Devon's professing of love, then I don't know if she is truly Neil's or if she ever really has been Neil's. And then also Anna says, I don't really care who plays Billy just as long as this one stays. And I think that is a good point. I mean, eventually we're going to get used to Burgess. We're just going to have to unless Weiner goes and recasts him again. But that reminds me actually of a comment Chris had left on YouTube last week, and Gary brought it back in a voicemail saying that Billy Miller is rumored to be going to General Hospital. So it is almost kind of a slap in the face. When Billy Miller left Y&R, it was sort of assumed he was going to go off and do some other projects, or that's how they framed it. And now if Billy Miller goes off to General Hospital, it was kind of clear they just had some problems with Y&R. That doesn't really look good for Y&R. It doesn't look good on them. Let's see. Shoot. Let's talk about Kelly and Ben. I should have done this one early, but Tawny Level on Facebook says, Allie, I knew it. Kelly and Ben are sister and brother. I mentioned that before, and maybe he killed their own father too. Tawny, you did mention that. I remember you mentioned them being brother and sister, so that was a good prediction. And now Tawny also has another prediction that we should listen up because she got this one right. Tawny says, there has to be a reason Kelly hated Ben so much at first. I think it was his graduation night and Ben was drinking and he killed his own father in a crash, and Ben was daydreaming about it and he's the one that hit Cordelia instead of Adam. That would be crazy good. That could be why Jenna hates him so much, because he hid it and went into the service instead of prison and became a doctor to change his identity. Or he killed someone and he was in witness protection, or maybe he was in the military and killed a person for the government and they staged his death. That's a pretty wide range. That's a pretty wide net. I like it though. I'm to the point where I'm just afraid to predict too much on this, because shoot, it's like we've been led down the path so many different ways that I'm just afraid. I'm afraid to make predictions. Gosh, I should have put these in some kind of more of a logical, chronological order. I'm jumping all around here. I hope that's okay. Because Rock Music Love 25 on YouTube says, I could tell that Hillary did not want to get married to Neil and did not want to be with Neil anymore, but the reason she said yes is because she didn't want to hurt Neil's feelings by breaking up with him and going with Devon. And I agree with you. I also want Colin to tell Jill the truth. I don't know. I don't think they can bring Drew back because she's dead unless she fakes her death and they can stop recasting people. Yeah, we had talked about that last week. Well, if Y&R is so big on recasting, why can't they recast Drew? I think it's I don't know. I mean, shoot, if they're bringing Phyllis back from a coma, I think they could do it. It's daytime. They could bring Drew back. I wouldn't mind it. I think that Drew was Neil's best match, and if a recast is going to get him back to the land of reality, then I'm all for it. And also about Hillary not wanting to marry Neil to not hurt his feelings. That's a pretty bad reason to marry somebody, and that makes me question Hillary's judgment. I like her more than I used to, but I do also kind of agree with that. Gosh, I hope the podcast quality is good, because I don't think I'm talking into the mic as much as I should. I hope the video quality is good here, because I think it's getting dimmer in the room. So I'm gonna just go through the rest of these real quick. Oh, Connor also left a voicemail that had said, Nikki has overstepped her boundaries for too long now. I am Team Chris. It does appear that way. It does seem like Nikki is button up in where she shouldn't. I think Nikki should be giving some kind of deference to Chris, and she isn't. And then Keebler Alves on YouTube says, okay, why is everyone so surprised that Nikki didn't know Paul was Dylan's father? Are we forgetting she was a stripper after all? Ooh, that's a good one. All right, those are the comments. The other thing I have to say, and I wanted to wait till the end, is, you know, I like to keep it positive throughout, but I have to say thank you so much for everyone who left comments and voicemails of support for everything that happened last week. It has been a really hard week. In some ways, I think this is probably the hardest, just because I lost my rabbit. She was like my best little bunny friend for 15 years, and it's been so hard to try to move on with my routines, and I don't want to, and I would give anything to get her back, and it's really been hard. But I've seen so many messages of support and condolence throughout the week, and I just want to thank you. You know who you are. I read every single one, and I took every single one to heart. There were a lot of people who shared the grief. I think that not everyone understands what it feels like to have a pet who is a member of the family. I can see why not everyone has that connection with animals, but I do. I love animals, and I loved mine, and it really made me feel better to know that I'm not alone. And I just, again, want to say thank you to everyone for everything. I had a couple of people ask if there was anywhere they could make donations. I actually did make a donation, a couple of donations in Buns' honor. Toward the end, Buns was having some hind leg weakness, and I purchased her, this is kind of sad, but I purchased her a little bunny wheelchair, just something to help get her hind legs up off the ground and keep her wheeling around and able to gain that mobility back. And unfortunately, Buns passed away before I was able to use the cart, so I did ask the company to donate that cart to someone in need, and they did say that they had a woman who takes care of rabbits. She's on disability, and that she absolutely had a rabbit that could use it. So that makes me happy to know that even though Buns had, she lived a long life. She just lived out her life. It wasn't something, she didn't have a disease or anything. She just had gotten old, and it makes me happy to at least know that another bunny can wheel around in her honor. I also made a small donation to Bunny Bunch. They're an organization in California who not only did they provide food and services for, like an internet way, but they are also a bunny rescue, and I have ordered awesome quality hay from them for a number of years, and in Buns' honor, I made a small donation to them. If you are interested, bunnybunch.org is their website. If you want to make a donation, anything in Buns' honor would be just so appreciated and so wonderful, and that would be amazing. Or you can always donate to your local pound, or you could adopt a rabbit. Buns is my first and probably my last for a long time rabbit. They are a pretty high maintenance pet. I put a lot in. 15 years. I didn't half-ass it. So they're kind of a high maintenance pet, but they are very loving, and if you are interested, let me know if you need any advice on how to raise a rabbit. I'll be more than happy to provide that. But again, thank you guys for all of the support. I can't tell you how much it means to me, and Buns thanks you too. Okay, everybody, that's it for this week. I hope that you enjoyed the new format. Please let me know what you think about it. I think the video has gotten kind of dim, so I'll work on that for next week. And please feel free to leave me your comments, and maybe you'll hear them on next week's chat. So until then, everybody, take care. I love ya. Bye.